Hello and welcome to today's online lecture on go-to published resources for New Jersey research. My name is Ginevra Morse. I'm the Vice President of Education and Programming here at American Ancestors. I will be your moderator for today's session. American Ancestors is a nonprofit organization supported by our members and donors. We provide resources and expertise in nearly all aspects of family history and are pleased to offer such programming for our members and friends around the world. This program today is brought to you by the Brew Family Learning Center. Our presenter is Kim Mannisto, a researcher with the Research and Library Services team here at American Ancestors. Kim is a certificate holder from the Boston University Genealogical Research Certificate Program and has over 30 years of experience in research and report writing. Her areas of expertise include early Pennsylvania settlers, colonial New Jersey, Quaker records, Midwest, especially Michigan and Ohio, Finnish, DNA, descendancy research, Scottish and English hereditary peerage titles, and Scottish genealogy with a particular interest in genetic markers and male clan descendancy. So despite its long history, New Jersey is known for several gaps in the records due to destruction, loss, and inconsistent record keeping. And to make things even more difficult, New Jersey repositories don't tend to digitize or share their collections with large genealogical websites such as Ancestry or Family Search. So for these reasons, family historians must turn to published records to locate their ancestors. So today, Kim will review several categories of go-to published materials, including New Jersey history, research guides, biographies, periodicals, land, and census substitutes. She'll present for about 45 minutes, and then we'll have time for questions at the end. At any point during the presentation, feel free to type your question into that Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen. There is a syllabus available for purchase at our online bookstore. You'll find a link to that in your reminder email. I'll include that link in my follow-up email after today's session, and I'll also drop it in the chat in just a moment. We are recording this event as well, and starting later today, you can freely go back and review any of the content from the presentation on as well as on our website, as well as our YouTube channel. All right, so without further ado, I know we have a lot to get through. I will turn things over to Kim.
Thank you, Ginevra, and hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon as we talk about go-to published resources for New Jersey research. During this webinar today, I'm going to highlight several published resources that cover a wide range of topics. I'm concentrating these topics because I think they will help you in your research as you research your New Jersey ancestors. And since we have a lot to cover today in the short amount of time we have together, I'm going to jump right in and get started. So the first thing is what I'd like to just do is discuss the benefits of published resources. So why should we use them? Well, if you have already started researching your New Jersey ancestors, I'm sure you've learned very quickly, like Ginevra said, that New Jersey is quite different than other states. And especially if you are used to researching your New England ancestors, where almost everything is a few clicks away. So New Jersey covets the record collections, and the state's repositories, quite frankly, refuse to give up the bulk of their collections to the paid and free sites like Ancestry or Family Search. They also don't tend to digitize many of their collections and make them available through their own repository websites. So researching your New Jersey ancestors can be frustrating, and I found that using published resources can help navigate the state's record collections. And they can also help show you what is and is not readily available and where to locate those records. So even if there are a lot of challenges when it comes to New Jersey research, the good thing is that there was a lot of people that came before you, and many researchers and historians have created a large amount of published indexes and abstract resources that should help you. So instead of digging through databases, oftentimes we can find our ancestors much easier because of these published resources that are available for the state of New Jersey. Another great benefit is that they help provide content to our ancestors' lives by providing details that might not be in other records. So there are published resources for just about every subject, but the categories I'm going to cover today, as Ginevra mentioned, are the histories, research guides, biographies, periodicals, census substitutes, and land records. I want to take a few minutes to state that I can't list all the published resources that are available for New Jersey. And you're going to find that many of the ones that you might need to help in your research are going to be more at the county or town level. So I would encourage you to seek those out. But one of my goals here today is to just get you to think about published resources and how they can help you. So again, I won't be talking about a single county or town, as those don't apply with everybody here today, but please seek those out on your own. And again, if you have any questions ever, you feel free to email me. So let's talk about the histories that are available for New Jersey. And again, you can't sum up the history of New Jersey in a single webinar, but I do want to spend a little time before I talk about those published histories about what was happening in the state. But what's important about those published histories is that it's important to understand them because it's the history of the state when researching your answers, particularly colonial ones, it's very important to understand what the history was. So published histories are what can add that context to your ancestors' lives, and they can tell us how they lived and what their challenges may have been. Sometimes they address illnesses that struck an area, which can explain how and why so many family members died. Published histories also help us understand how an area evolved. For instance, what trades were established, what religions dominated the area, or what new congregations were erected. They can also help us understand what political and social pressures our ancestors were facing and what could have influenced their movements in and out of an area. These are the details that enrich our family stories and can help us learn more about them. So let's briefly talk about the history of New Jersey. Before New Jersey became one of the 13 colonies, the original inhabitants were the Lenape, and who are also known as the Delaware Indians. The first known European who explored the inland territory was Henry Hudson, who arrived in 1609. So Hudson was an Englishman who was working for the Netherlands, and he was the one responsible for claiming the land for the Dutch. The land would eventually be called New Netherland. The first permanent settlement in the province was established in 1660 and was located in the northeastern corner of the province. It was named Bergen and included Dutch, Swedish, and Finnish immigrants. So then in 1664, the Dutch lost control of New Netherlands to the British, which caused several land disputes between the Dutch and the British for the next decade and longer. However, Britain would be the victors, and they would rename the area after the island of Jersey in the English Channel. So the province of Jersey, after that, was soon split into two portions, and they were referred to as East Jersey and West Jersey. And James, the Duke of York, who was granted a patent to the land by his brother, King Charles I, proceeded to grant this land to two proprietors. So the first proprietor was Sir George Carteret, and he received the land in East Jersey for his military service, actually in the Jersey Islands. And the capital of the East Jersey was named Perth Amboy. The second portion was designated to Lord John Berkeley, and he was given the area that became known as West Jersey. And like Carteret, he was friends with the right people. So that's how he was given the proprietorship of the land. So the capital of West Jersey was known as Burlington. So the line you see here in red, displayed in the picture, it was known as the Keith Line, which was created by Surveyor General George Keith in 1686 to help settle land disputes and establish the boundaries between East and West Jersey. Carteret and Berkeley later sold their land, which I will discuss shortly, but the British Crown maintained control of the province, and in 1702, to quell tensions, Queen Anne created one colony to help unite the people. So following the Revolutionary War in 1787, the New Jersey became the third state to ratify the U.S. Constitution, and in 1790, Trenton was named the capital of the state. So I thought this was an interesting fact, is that the original grant from James, Duke of York, to Sir George Carteret and Lord John Berkeley, recorded on June 24, 1664, still survived. It is currently held by the New Jersey State Archives. So who were the people of the colony? Well, here we have a map of the counties that was established in New Jersey prior to 1775. The land above the blue line shown here is the area that was claimed by New York prior to 1769, which includes present-day Sussex County. So the disputes between New York and the 13th colony started in 1664, as I stated, when they had disagreed with the location of the northern border that was created by King Charles II. On October 7, 1769, a royal commission decided this boundary, but the state would continue to dispute maritime boundaries within the Hudson River until those were settled in 1834. New Jersey itself had a few land disputes with her other neighbors, mainly because the borders of Pennsylvania and the Delaware were more clearly defined by the Delaware River. So throughout the 17th and 18th century, ethnic populations tended to dominate some certain areas within New Jersey. So Sussex and Morris counties were predominantly English, and the Dutch continued to have a large presence in Bergen and Somerset counties. And Puritans settled towns in Essex County, which included Newark and Elizabeth counties. Now, Middlesex and Monmouth had a mixed population, but had a large Quaker presence in both areas. And Salem and Gloucester and Burlington were also dominated by Quakers. So there was a distinct difference between the Quaker populations of East and West Jersey. So West Jersey was populated by English Quakers, which was influenced by William Penn, and East Jersey was made up of Scottish Quakers from the lowlands of Scotland, one of which was Lord Berkeley. So he led the squatter, he was the one that led the Scottish Quaker movement. He was also the absentee governor of East Jersey from 1682 to 1688. So the Scottish Quakers were also the first to settle in East Jersey, and they were settled in the capital of Perth-Amboy. So if you have family surnames like Barkley, Hampton, Craig, or Fraser, and so on, you may be interested in my first published resource, The Scottish Quakers and Early America, from 1650 to 1700, by David Dobson, which has a compiled list of Scottish Quakers, some of which remain in Scotland, and also those who came to the colonies. I've included two examples here of details that you can gather from the book. So one example shows that an Alexander Adam was an indentured servant and arrived on the vessel the Henry Francis in 1685. It goes on to say that he settled in Piscataway, and in 1685, that was in Middlesex County, but by 1694, he removed to Freehold in Monmouth County. The entry names his wife, his children, and also cites where the author found the information, which notes that it was found in the New Jersey State Archives and also in the History of Monmouth. An second example here is one for a John Baird, who was born in Aberdeen about 1655 and came to East Jersey as an indentured servant in 1683. If you're not familiar with Aberdeen, it's located in northern Scotland and considered part of the Highlands, but Aberdeen was a coastal area and closely aligned with the lowland society and economy. So another interesting fact, until 1738, there was one royal governor for both New Jersey and New York, which is going to influence how records are located for those before 1738. And there was a proprietary house that was built in 1762 in Perth-Amboy, which serves as the residence of the last royal governor of New Jersey. It is the only proprietary governor's mansion of the 13 colonies still around today. And another fact is that last royal governor of New Jersey was William Franklin, the illegitimate son of Benjamin Franklin. So going back to East and West Jersey, I don't have time to get into all the differences and trials and tribulations that occurred in both areas, but I do want to touch on a few key differences. So East Jersey, which still maintained a large Dutch population thanks to the former province of New Netherland, grew more rapidly and started expanding between 1664 and 1667, which was much earlier than West Jersey. The towns include Bergen, Elizabethtown, Newark, Woodbridge, Middletown, Piscataway, and Shrewsbury. And because of the close proximity, the province of East Jersey was heavily influenced by New England and New York. In February of 1682, trustees for Sir George Carteret, who died in 1680, sold East Jersey lands to 12 men, 11 of which were members of the Society of Friends. All 12 men took on one partner, and these men became known as the 24 proprietors of East Jersey. West Jersey, on the other hand, saw expansion much later, between 1675 and 1680, and included early counties of Salem and Burlington, in an area that is now Camden County. The province of West Jersey was heavily influenced by the Quaker colony of Pennsylvania and William Penn, who settled land disputes in the area. So in 1675, Lord Berkeley sold his land in West Jersey to trustees for a Quaker, which included 1/10 that was to be granted to a man named John Fenwick, who eventually founded Salem. The land was eventually divided into 100 parts and put up for sale. A large portion was purchased by Quakers, and the area would continue to maintain a close relationship with Pennsylvania. In fact, you can often find Quaker families from Burlington and Monmouth, New Jersey, in record collections in areas like Bucks County, Pennsylvania. So that brings me to two more published resources to understand the history of both in East and West Jersey. So if I were you, I would consult two different books. First is The Province of West New Jersey, 1609-1702, A History of the Origins of the American Colony by John E. Pomfret. He narrates the history of the area and highlights the contributions of the Dutch and the Swedes, who were present long before the British commanded the province. Pomfret also wrote the companion volume, The Province of East New Jersey, 1609-1702, which describes the founding of East Jersey and the many problems the settlers and proprietors faced. So the reason I concentrate so heavily on the history of East and West Jersey is because their division and history still affects how we would look for land records today. And utilizing published resources will help us understand and navigate these records. So Carteret and Berkeley, along with the men that succeeded them, were the landowners of New Jersey for 4 decades. They retained their property rights even when Queen Anne combined East and West Jersey in 1702. And each entity and the trustees for Sir Carteret and Lord Berkeley sold their land. Eventually, they incorporated into what became known as the East Jersey Proprietors and the West Jersey Proprietors. The East Jersey Proprietors was considered the oldest corporation in New Jersey and only just sold its rights to vacant land and dissolved the East Jersey Proprietors Corporation in 1998. The West Jersey Proprietors is still an active corporation currently operating out of Burlington. These corporations maintain the land records for the state of New Jersey for over 3 centuries, which is critical to understand since New Jersey has not shared these records with sites like Ancestry and Family Search. So currently, New Jersey is made up of 21 counties and 565 municipalities with 5 forms of municipal government, which can be a town, a township, a city, a village, or a borough. So what does that mean? Well, each municipality has its own government structure, which you will need to be aware of when it comes to record keeping, especially since vital records can be found at both the county and the municipal level. Municipalities were required to keep duplicates of vital records starting in 1848 when the state level recording began. The image here shows the different municipalities for the state of New Jersey, and you could see that a large portion of them are concentrated in the northeast corner where the first settlement of Bergen was created in 1660. The area is now known as Bergen County. So one thing that I do when I'm looking for someone in a particular area is to become familiar with the boundary changes where that person lived. Historical boundaries of townships and counties in New Jersey were very different from what we see today. So for instance, in the map from 1829 on the left, you see Monmouth County outlined in red, which stretched far south and included the portion of land that is now designated as Ocean County, which you can see in the present day map on the right. So within the county of Monmouth is the small little town of Shrewsbury, which is the second oldest town in Monmouth and was created in 1693. So at the end of the 17th century, Shrewsbury stretched 1,000 miles down into present-day Ocean County. So if you are researching your ancestors who lived in Shrewsbury, for instance, you have a deed that you looked up. So in the late 1600s and early 700s, you need to know that those records may now be located in Ocean County and not Monmouth County, where the town of Shrewsbury is located today. So a great published resource that can help you understand these boundary changes and offer a brief history of the area is The Story of New Jersey's Civil Boundaries, 1606 to 1968 by John F. Snyder. The author does a great job reconstructing the boundaries of New Jersey over 300 years and offers details about different county formations. The highlight of this book for me is all the different maps, including this one here of European settlements from 1609 to 1660. The author uses these maps to tell the story of how the province progressed over time. The maps start with the Indian period, which shows tribes, trails, and villages, and progresses to European settlements and maps of pre- and post-revolutionary New Jersey. The book also goes into great detail about each county and actions taken to dissolve the county to create townships or boroughs, and it notes dates as well as spelling changes. It also highlights extinct counties, which is pretty common in New Jersey. So as far as histories for the state, there's a couple that I would recommend. The first is New Jersey from Colony to State, 1609-1798. By Richard P. McCormick, which begins with Henry Hudson's voyage in 1609 and speaks of the diverse people that built New Jersey. Another would be New Jersey, A History of the Garden State, edited by Maxine Laurie and Roger Witt. The book has won several awards and has some major contributors who are political, social, and economic historians. So it tells the state's complex history and touches on the state's Native American heritage, its role in the American Revolution, industrialization, and where the state stood on the 19th century debate over slavery. An older but still relevant book is another one by John E. Pomfret called Colonial New Jersey, which is part of the series A History of the American Colonies in 13 volumes. The book is divided into 3 sections consisting of the founding and proprietary area to 1702, the years of royal control prior to 1763, and pre- and post-American Revolution. So another award-winning book that I'd like to mention that was edited by Maxine Laurie is the New Jersey Anthology. The book contains 17 essays with illustrations, and it covers a lot of the social unrest in the state of New Jersey from the proprietary era to the present. The essay include works regarding the Revolutionary War, women's movements, slavery, labor strikes, and more. So I love maps, and I think they can tell a story in the absence of records. So for instance, property maps can reveal your ancestors' neighbors, and further research often reveals that children likely intermarried with their neighboring families, so that they all might have migrated to an area together. So sometimes when we can't determine from records where our ancestors migrated from, we can look at our neighbors and trace their footsteps, and we can find a common point of origin, a state or miles and miles away. So in case there are other map lovers out there, I wanted to mention Don Delaney's book. It's a cartographic record of the state of New Jersey. And Delaney was one of the curators of the historic map collection at Princeton University. So it's a beautiful compilation of maps within this book. And it includes early exploratory maps, nautical charts, road maps, county maps, and 19th century maps that include names of farmers and merchants. And I don't have time to get into specific published resources regarding military records, but since they was historically relevant, I do want to quickly mention several historical books about the major wars of the 17th, 18th, and 19th century. So first is in New Jersey, A Military History by Joseph Bilby. He recounts the state's military history, starting with New Netherlands conflicts with the Lenape and progress through the colonial wars and into the 21st century conflicts. There were more battles and skirmishes in New Jersey during the American Revolution than any other state, which totaled around 238 and earned the name for New Jersey as the title, or earned the name the Crossroads of the Revolution. So it bears mentioning the New Jersey in the American Revolution by Barbara Mitnick, which is described as a remarkable comprehensive anthology bringing to life the rich and turbulent late 18th century period in New Jersey. In regard to the Civil War, I would go ahead and consult New Jerseyans in the Civil War for Union and Liberty by William J. Jackson. The book tackles the social and political history in New Jersey in the Civil War, as well as a military history. I'd also check out Freedom to All, New Jersey's African-American Civil War Soldiers, again by Joseph G. Bilby, which details the story of New Jersey's Black soldier in the Civil War. An expanded version published in 2011 includes the names and burial locations for over 10,000 African-American troops buried in New Jersey, and it also attempts to connect them to their regiments. So here's another interesting fact. The Isle of Jersey in the British Channel was thought to be named after a settlement from the height of the Roman Empire. So the grant from James, Duke of York to Cartier and Berkeley reads, which said tract of land is hereafter to be called by the names of Caesarea or New Jersey. In 1787, between the signing of the Declaration of Independence and the ratification of the Constitution, states could mint their own coin, and as a result, Jersey minted the coin pictured here and often referred to as the no sprig, plow camel head copper coin. So next, I want to talk about research guides and why they just might be one of the most important published resources when it comes to New Jersey research. As I mentioned earlier, one of the major drawbacks when it comes to New Jersey is that the key repositories in the state do not share or digitize their records. But your family research hinges on the information in those repositories. So to get a full accounting of what is in those records and in their collections, like land deeds and birth, marriage, and death records, you will need to order those records from repositories like the New Jersey State Archives. And you will need to spend a significant amount of time doing your homework in order to really understand what records are available and how to access the information. So one repository that has chosen to not share their collections is the New Jersey State Archives, which is the main official repository for the state. So the original copies of early birth, marriage, and death records will need to be ordered from this state archive. So this particular repository is going to be indispensable when it comes to researching your New Jersey ancestors. Therefore, I suggest consulting the Guide to Family History Sources in the New Jersey State Archives. It's compiled by several editors. The image here is a second edition, but there is also a third edition available. Other state resources guide include the Handy New Jersey Genealogy Handbook. All you need to find genealogy resources for New Jersey by Gary L. Morris. The New Jersey Digging for Ancestors in the Garden State by Dr. Stryker Rhoda. And I would also consult the State Research Guide, New Jersey by James M. Beadler, which is available to purchase through Family Tree Magazine. I have personally used their guides in the past for my own research, and I'm acquainted with James, who happens to be the interim executive director of the Genealogical Society of Pennsylvania. He's incredibly knowledgeable, and he's also respected authority on German research, so I would trust his knowledge and resources in this research guide and other works he's completed. And since we're talking about New Jersey repositories, I'd like to take this opportunity to mention a published resource on how to locate manuscript collections in different New Jersey repositories. So manuscript collections are one of the underutilized resources that we have available. They're difficult to research because you have to actually be on site, and they're normally not indexed, and they're go digging page by page, but there are so many incredible nuggets of information inside these manuscript collections. And they can contain some very unusual collections that can help give context to your ancestors' lives. So an excellent and incredible comprehensive work was completed by Mary M. Murin titled New Jersey Historical Manuscripts, A Guide to Collections in the State. It includes an alphabetical list of every repository in New Jersey, and it breaks down what is in each collection. So the manuscripts can contain information that cover a long list of subjects like business records, church and cemetery records, genealogies, scrapbooks, Bibles, and personal letters, to just name a few of the things that are in these collections. There are also many obscure records that can be found in the collections. For example, here on the right, I have an image from the book that shows that the Burlington County Prison Museum. It has the collection titled Burlington County Court, Prison, and Sheriff Records from 1639 to 1960. So we all have that black sheep in our family, and manuscript collections might prove and to provide the answers you are looking for, and these should not be overlooked. A second example from the book shows that the Sussex County Historical Society has an account in notebooks from local businesses like the local general store and blacksmith that covers the years 1774 to 1862. So oftentimes the heads of families would have an account at a local establishment like a general store, and all individuals that were allowed to make purchases on their account would be noted. So they can help confirm family relationships and even identify other children or relatives. So please, in your research, especially for New Jersey, do not overlook manuscript collections that are available. You can almost always find guides for a specific repository's manuscript collection as well. For instance, the New Jersey Historical Society has their own guide called A Guide to Manuscript Collections of the New Jersey Historical Society by Don C. Schemer and Robert C. Morris. The book is under copyright restriction and is not viewable online, so you would need to locate it in a local library. Then there's the library at Rutgers University, and they offer a guide to the manuscript collection of the Rutgers University Library, and also a guide to manuscript diaries and journals in the Special Collections Department, Rutgers University, which were both created by Donald A. St. Clair. Again, you may not find something that pertains to your ancestor, but in the absence of other records, you can find information that might paint a picture of what your ancestor's life was like. So for instance, I had several ancestors who suffered from tuberculosis, and one was a young girl who was institutionalized, which wasn't uncommon back then. And I've often wondered what it must have been like for her, besides terrifying. And since I will never know her story, I can search manuscript collections and discover similar stories, like the one I found at Rutgers University for a young girl named Louisa Halsey Canfield. And she was from Morris County, New Jersey, and she was sent to Round Hill, Massachusetts in 1861 for a water cure for tuberculosis. And she documented her daily trials. So again, always check repository websites for your ancestors, where your ancestors lived, and check for their particular research guides and look into their manuscript collections. So because they're often lumped into manuscripts and special collections, I also wanted to take the time to talk about a few published resources for New Jersey Bible records. So the major repositories that house New Jersey Bibles are the Genealogical Society of New Jersey, often referred to as GSNJ, which has the largest collection with over 6,000 records, primarily before 1850. Then there is the New Jersey Historical Society, and the Daughters of the American Revolution Library in Washington, D.C., and the Gloucester County Historical Society. The DAR now has a searchable database, but for sites like GSNJ, which I have used as an example here, you can consult their downloadable PDFs, like the GSNJ Bible and Family Records Collection Index. You can use these published aids to locate record numbers to add to your laundry list of things to do when you visit the repository, and to help you order or to help you order these Bible records directly from the repository. The example here shows that the Adams family, located in record 3070, also includes the names Abbott, Bailey, Collins, Hall, and Hurd, and so on. So these can help you identify and determine if this is the correct Adams family before you seek out the Bible pages. So when you go into the different record collections on sites like and GSNJ, go ahead and look and see what searchable indexes they have for all their different collections. So I also want to mention Anna Miller Watering series, since she addresses Bible collections in several counties, and they include New Jersey Bible Records, Volume 1 for Atlantic and Burlington and Cape May in Gloucester County, and New Jersey Bible Records, Volume 2 for Salem and Cumberland counties. So biographies and genealogies can also be a great source to help you construct your ancestors' family when documents are not readily available. So when looking for books containing biographical or family history sketches, look for keywords in the title or subtitle, such as biography, memorial, memoir, portrait, and album. And many of these types of books will be arranged at the county level rather than the state level. So using these published biographical sketches and genealogies may help provide details about your ancestors' lives that you can't learn from vital records, such as their occupation or their place of residence, or even their educational background. In addition, they can provide vital details such as birth and death dates, and often offer information about future generations, like the names of their children and their families. They can lead you to affiliated families, and as well as help you link or eliminate connections to families of the same name. So biographies can also show you the migration pattern of a family and often identify an immigrant ancestor. Even unsourced and uncited biographies and genealogies can be helpful, as they provide clues about people and places that can be used to locate reliable primary sources. But I will caution you that when you do use biographies or genealogies, especially those that are uncited, you always want to find primary documents to back up the information. So it's really just a guide. So again, you want to look at the county-specific biographical sketches, but if your ancestor was a fairly prominent, well-respected citizen, they may be located in larger collections like this one here, a New Jersey biographical index covering some 100,000 biographies by Donald St. Clair. So keep in mind that large biography collections are probably not firsthand accounts about your ancestors, and the information within should be, again, used as a guide and proven with primary documents, like vital records or land records or probate records. I will mention that Donald St. Clair was a National Genealogical Society Hall of Fame award winner due to his contributions to the early genealogical history of New Jersey. So I believe he probably did his due diligence when working on this collection. He was also the author of New Jersey Family Index, a guide to the genealogical sketches in New Jersey collective sources, which is a guide to sketches in 75 history publications. So here I have included a biography for James M. Quimby of Orange and Newark counties, which even included an image of him. The biography highlights his descent from his immigrant ancestor, Thomas Quimby, who arrived in Salem, Massachusetts between 1643 and 1646, and it goes into great detail of his life and his ancestors. I would also consult Mary DePue Ogden's 4-volume collection Memorial Encyclopedia of New Jersey for more biographies. So every once in a while, you run across a collection that is hard to categorize, and this is the case with John E. Stillwell's Historical and Genealogical Miscellany, Data Relating to the Settlement of Settlers of New York and New Jersey. So this is a 5-volume series with records that extend from Staten Island and down to Middleton, Monmouth, Burlington, and Shrewsbury counties in New Jersey. And again, that's because they shared a colonial governor for many years at the start of the 18th century. So you'll want to check out the large content pages of each volume for detailed descriptions of what is recorded in each of these volumes. But in general, volumes 1 through 3 include parish registers, friends meeting records, court records, records of earmarks, burial ground transcriptions, Bible records, quick rents, and patents and loans. And then volumes 3 through 5, if you have ancestors from Monmouth County, you're in luck because it contains Monmouth County genealogies. So which is why I placed it under the section of biographies. Here's another series that's hard to place. The title for this next collection is created by the New Jersey Historical Society Varies. It was published in 1880 and in 1949, and as a whole, the series is commonly called the Archives of the State of New Jersey First Series. but is also known as documents relating to colonial, revolutionary, and post-revolutionary history of the state of New Jersey, because that describes basically what is in this 42-volume series. So you may be surprised that you can find your ancestors mentioned in these first 10 volumes, since they primarily contain administrations for British colonial governors between 1631 and 1746, which in a nutshell are letters appointing different members of society to different positions of authority. So the index to the first 10 volumes is on Family Search, which also had the first series collection, but clear images of that first series collection, I think, can be found at the Library of Congress. So here I have an image from volume 9 regarding the death of His Majesty's council members in the province of New Jersey, and it offers suggestions for the replacements, one of which was a man named Samuel Smith of Burlington. So this is why I included this series in Biographies, because you find nuggets of biographical information about your ancestor in this series within the body of the work and within the footnotes that supply even more information. As is the case here for Samuel Smith, he was revealed to be the eldest son of Richard Smith, whose father Samuel Smith came to Burlington from Yorkshire, England in 1694. It even states that Richard Smith was also a member of the council, and he died while attending a council session in Perth Amboy in 1751. The family members were members of the Society of Friends, which would tell the ancestor of Samuel Smith where to start looking for vital records for the Smith family, which is important, especially when you are researching a common name like Smith. So I'll talk briefly about periodicals, since they can be as valuable as biographies and offer similar information, as well as offer scholarly articles such as who was the father of William Johnson of Toms River, New Jersey, who was born in 1720. There are several periodicals for the state of New Jersey, and they include the Genealogical Magazine of New Jersey. It was started in 1925 by the Genealogical Society of New Jersey, and it focuses on cemetery, tombstone transcriptions, marriage records, tax lists, and church records. Then there is also the New Jersey History. It's a journal by the New Jersey Historical Society, and it contains several genealogies among other topics. The first 10 volumes between 1845 and 1866 were also known as the Proceedings of the New Jersey Historical Society. So I find that different volumes of periodicals can be found spread across several sites. So you'll want to look at sites like Family Search, archives.org, or even HathiTrust. And again, because your early New Jersey ancestors likely had close ties to New York and Pennsylvania, and because of boundary disputes, I would not overlook periodicals in both states, which often include articles about New Jersey. So in that regard, I would suggest consulting the New York Genealogical and Biographical Record, also called the Record, which includes genealogies, case studies, and biographies. The quarterly journal dates back to 1870, and a search for New Jersey in the index on the New York Genealogical Biographical Society's webpage produced 15 pages of results for New Jersey ancestors. For Pennsylvania, there is the Pennsylvania Genealogical Magazine. It was previously known as Publishers of the Genealogical Society of Pennsylvania, which includes 115 years of abstracted material and compiled genealogies. And then there's also the Pennsylvania Magazine of History and Biography from the Historical Society of Pennsylvania, which is more of a scholarly periodical, but also still worth consulting. And just an FYI, I've provided indexes to my handout to all the periodicals that I've mentioned. So an interesting and not so fun fact about New Jersey is that you are going to need to rely heavily on census substitutes, because the state of New Jersey has lost more census records than any other state in the nation. So understanding what census substitutes are available can help you with your research. So census records can help put our ancestors in a certain time and place, and it can shed light on their economic status and movements. So the fact that the U.S. federal census records for New Jersey for the years 1790, 1800, 1810, and 1820 are presumed to have been destroyed for the state of New Jersey is a really huge loss. One exception to that statement is an 1800 US federal census for Cumberland County did survive. So in the absence of census records, we can often use other records like land and prorate records to place our ancestors in a certain time or place. But if those don't exist, we can turn to census substitutes like tax records and ratables to fill those gaps in time. So published copies of tax records and ratables may be easier to navigate and read than originals, and as an alphabetical listings of indexes may also be available. So for published resources for ratables, I would consult the Revolutionary Census of New Jersey, an index based on ratables of the inhabitants of New Jersey during the period of the American Revolution by Ken Stryker Rhoda. And then there's the New Jersey Periodicals Register of New Jersey County Tax Ratables, Abstracts, and Exempt List, 1773 to about 1889, compiled by the Genealogical Society of Utah. And I think I skipped a slide. Ginevra, do you want to go back one? Sorry about that. So ratables were lists that were made of heads of household to determine who was eligible to be taxed and why. It also addressed what exempt and who was exempt, what made you exempt, and what taxes were to be levied. So the heads of household were normally males, but they could include widows. And the first ratables levied in New Jersey occurred in 1773, and they were collected regularly until 1822. So to determine the tax to be levied on a household, New Jersey ratables looked at several factors. Between 1773 and 1786, we can see from this chart that they looked at factors like how many acres of improved land someone had, what livestock they had, and even got down to particular livestock. They wanted to know if they owned a carriage or a vessel like a boat. Did they have a grist mill on their property? And they also looked at the number of enslaved persons to determine the head of household's tax rate. So in 1792, Jersey law required a list of all and every free and able-bodied white male citizen between the ages of 18 and 45. And they did that in order to determine who could be taxed for not serving in the militia and who was exempt. So in order to use this as a census substitute, I would consult New Jersey in 1793, an abstract and index to the 1793 militia census of the state of New Jersey by James S. Norton. Something to note about Norton's work is that the records for Bergen, Cape May, Salem, and Somerset counties were reconstructed by the author. You can also consult New Jersey Tax List 1772 to 1822 by Ronald Burton Jackson. This is a 4-volume set that lists taxpayers by name, lists their town, their county, and the date they recorded paying a tax. The collection does contain transcription errors and includes Hunterdon County and most of Burlington, Bergen, and Middlesex counties. So land records. So like other records, New Jersey does not offer much in the way of land records, and large portions of these records are going to be on microfilm. So understanding these records and knowing what's available is going to be crucial when you visit select repositories, and published resources can help you in that regard. There are many reasons why to turn to land records. Again, it places your ancestors in a certain time and place. It can provide details about family members, for instance, who witnessed land deeds, and the same surname can help expand the family. And sometimes they even offer maps that note their neighbors. Land records can show a person's movement in an area and shed light on an ancestor's status in the community. So why would you want to consult published resources first instead of diving right into original land records? Well, if you've ever read the land records or traced certain property, you know that deciphering their content can be very difficult. And once you have finally located them, which is a multi-step process. So published resources can simplify all of that because they often list the names of grantors and or grantees alphabetically and note the property location and transaction dates. So published resources can help you get the gist of what's in a record, and it can help you decipher the content once you get the original document. So historically, East Jersey proprietors in Perth Amboy and West Jersey proprietors in Burlington recorded land conveyances until the Land Act of 1785, which then designated to the counties. However, some mortgages were all recorded at the county clerk level as early as 1766. So you want to refer to your ancestors' particular county to see what records they have. After 1785, land records were transferred to Trenton and known as Secretary of State deeds. This is not a published resources, but I wanted to mention that the New Jersey State Library has a guide titled New Jersey County Resource Office Resources, which provides links on how to access county office records. So the first published resource regarding land records that I want to mention is Joseph R. Cleats, Using the Records of the East and West Jersey Proprietors. This is an easy to understand description and the history of the proprietor system, and includes extensive timeline of the important events that occurred during New Jersey proprietary history. It provides a detailed history of the early settlements of both East and West Jersey and discusses boundary changes. One helpful aspect of the book is that it gives key terms and document types that you might run across when researching your early colonial ancestors, as well as legal and archaic terms that can be found in early records. So another interesting and not so fun fact is that only a quarter of colonial land transactions were recorded. So don't be surprised if you can't locate land records for your colonial ancestors. So I also recommend the New Jersey Proprietors and Their Land, 1664 to 1776, again by John E. Prumfett. It's a comprehensive history of the proprietor area, talking about the evolution of the proprietary system in New Jersey, including how land was distributed. I would also seek out the Colonial Conveyances, Province of East and West Jersey, 1664 and 1794. This is a 2-volume series that provides an index to help you locate deeds, particularly pre-1785, before they became known as Secretary of State's deeds. Here's a sample from the book which shows that information includes the grantor, the grantee name, as well as the date of the deed, locations of the property, and where to locate the record. So here's a sample of a New Jersey deed, and it's really not much different than other land documents for other states that we've seen. They're just a little bit harder to come by. This particular one was a quitclaim deed from 1701 from a father to a son, which offers further information about who the father obtained the land from in 1680. For early land records, I would consult patents and deeds and other early records of New Jersey, 1664 to 1703. It was first published in 1899 as Archives of the State of New Jersey, and it was reprinted and edited by William Nelson in 2000. The book is broken down into East Jersey records and West Jersey records, and provides abstracts of early deeds and surveys from 1664 to 1703. You'll want to use this resource with caution because some pages of the original records were not transcribed, and some records that were transcribed are not recorded in the index. However, I mention it here because it's still a valuable published resource worth consulting. And 2 more primary resources for land abstracts as an index are the Index to Powers of Attorney, Surveyors' Reports, Commissions, etc., referring to deeds, which you can locate on Family Search by the title Index of Names to Various Records in Various New Jersey Counties, 1600 to 1800s. And it's also available on its creator's website, which is the New Jersey State Archives. In addition to Secretary of State deeds, it contains commissions, both civil and military, as well as oaths of allegiance, marriages, pardons, and cattle earmark records. I would also look at the Index to Deeds, Grantee and Grantor, which is also an index offered by the New Jersey State Archives, and a good aid for locating Secretary of State deeds in both East and West Jersey. And the last published resource that I'll mention here today is if you have East Jersey ancestors, I would not overlook Richard S. Hutchinson's 10-volume collection titled East New Jersey Land Records it has multiple years, and he's abstracted deeds for East Jersey from Bergen, Essex, Middlesex, Monmouth, and Somerset counties. The collection is organized by the date of the deed, which recorded which can be decades after the transaction occurred. So the earliest land transaction abstracted in this collection transpired as early as 1682. So how can you locate these published resources besides Family Search and Ancestry? So I've included a lot of these in my handout, but I would say I was able to locate many downloadable PDFs at the New Jersey State Archives. And I suggest, as I suggested earlier, I would spend some time on their site to see everything that they have to offer. If you haven't used the resource WorldCat before, it's really one to become familiar with. You can enter the name of a book in WorldCat and you can search by zip code and you can find it at a location close to you. And here's a little sample of what their page looks like. There's also Internet Archives. Same thing. You go ahead and you put the book title in there. And the nice thing is if they have it in their collection, you can view it online on their database for hours at a time. So in summary, seek published resources for history, content, abstracts, and indexes. Look for authors who specialize in New Jersey, which I've mentioned a few. Mr. Pomfret is one. And then don't forget to look for county-specific published resources where your ancestor lived. If you locate an abstracted published resource, determine if an index is available. And so I was also, again, able to find several indexes for the published resources I've mentioned, and I've included those in my handout.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kim, for that very informative presentation. I'm sure people were taking notes. Of course, there is that syllabus available for sale. I will include that link should be in the chat. It's also in your reminder emails, as well as the follow-up email that will go out later today. Before we get to your questions, I just wanted to let you know about a few upcoming events. So next Thursday, October 26th, join us for a presentation by archivist Gabrielle Roth and our conservator Todd Pattison talking about stories from the archives scrapbooks. I'm sure many of you might have scrapbooks or family items like scrapbooks in your collections at home. Also starting on November 1st, we have a 3-week online course on verifying your Mayflower lineage with Chris Child and Lindsay Fulton. And then if you want to delve even more deeply into your New Jersey research, join us starting on November 29th for a 4-week online course, New Jersey Research, 4 Centuries of History and Genealogy. Kim, our presenter today, will be one of the instructors for that 4-week course, as well as senior genealogist Kyle Hurst. All right, so let's get to some of your questions. Starting with one of the, Kim, you mentioned the importance of New Jersey repositories. Can you kind of talk about, how do you find a repository for a certain area? Is it a Google search? Is it one of the published resources that you mentioned? How would you go about kind of learning what repositories are available for a certain area?
So first, let's state this, that the New Jersey State Archives is the official repository for the state of New Jersey. So they're going to house all of the primary documents like birth, death, marriage records, and you're going to need to order those records from the New Jersey State Archives. If you want to, and then if you were looking for more like the bibliographies and things like that, then you want to go to your local libraries or even the New Jersey State Library. As far as town specific, I would start with your local historical society. So you would go to Monmouth County and look at their site, see what their local libraries are. And also too, I've noticed with New Jersey, the university libraries have many, many really fabulous collections. So do not overlook whatever university or state libraries are within your local area.
Another question, can you comment on kind of the 19th century family histories that were very popular? A lot of them, of course, are uncited, but are these great published resources to turn to?
Ooh, that's so again, let me stress, if you're using family genealogies, remember what was available to them even in the early 2000s and able to compile those genealogies. I mean, what is available to us today as researchers or hobbyists is so different than what was available even 15, 20 years ago. So, and someone just recently said to me, family lore is the evil of genealogy. And I kind of cracked up because I kind of believe that sometimes, because people take what somebody said in a family and they just believe that it cannot be different because it was told by a family member. But that story passed from one person to the other. And you're going to find in those family genealogies that that's what you're going to see. And you have to be really careful that you go ahead and find documentation yourself that you can cite to prove those birth, date, and fabulous stories.
All right, let's see. A few other questions. Did any of the published resources that you mentioned today, would they include the state of Delaware? And can you kind of talk about, I mean, was there a connection between New Jersey and Delaware?
I don't know many published resources when I came across this, and also I'm working on the 18th and 19th century. There's not a huge crossover, believe it or not, between there and Delaware. And you're going to find that the published resources are going to mention Pennsylvania. They're going to mention New York for many reasons. Like I had stated, the border between New Jersey and Delaware was pretty solid because of the Delaware River. Now, with that being said, when you go to, for instance, New Jersey and you're looking across that river, it's not very far. So I would not ignore Delaware's history, but what I would do is I would go ahead and look at those boundary changes and look at family, like do a little bit of historical research about, what two towns between Delaware and New Jersey did families really frequent. For instance, I can find my Monmouth and Burlington County families very often in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. So I would do a little history to see your particular Delaware ancestors, what counties did most people interchange between New Jersey and Delaware, and then start from there.
Sarah asks, are the online resources listed for the New Jersey State Library, are they available to non-New Jersey residents?
No, it might be hit or miss. There might be some in there, but again, there's some states that you can access their records and their online resources, but mainly it's going to be available on site. With that being said, I would go ahead and if you find an online resource that you want to look into, I would see if there was anybody else that might have copied it, made it available even on their private blog. Or also I would check places like WorldCat or HathiTrust or Internet Archives to see if a copy is in their possession, as well as Family Search.
Another question, were voter lists made available, or have those been published or abstracted that you've come across?
I have not come across that. I have not, the voter lists are going to come much later. So I don't want to answer that 100% because my, my specialty is Colonial, New Jersey, and we really didn't have those voter lists back then. So that you might want to check maybe at the county level to see what voter lists. If you're familiar with using the catalog search or wiki search option on Family Search, you can look up, you can just search, or even Ancestry's catalog, just search New Jersey voter and see if it propagates a list of what's available. And also check the New Jersey State Archives.
Let's see, a question about, you mentioned Scottish Quakers, particularly. Terry asked, did Scots Irish settle in New Jersey? And I wonder, are any of the published resources that you mentioned today kind of good sources to understand the settlement of New Jersey?
So in regards to the Scotch Irish, yes, absolutely. So you had, so predominantly, when you're talking about the Quaker population, you're talking about English Quakers and Scottish Quakers. But of course, all throughout the, through this 18th century and a little earlier, you're going to have your indentured servants and who are going to be Scotch and Scotch Irish. And actually, I talk about that in my course coming up on the 18th century, and I mention published resources for that. I cannot quote the exact title, but there's a book or something about indentured and in bondage. And so again, go to Wiki search, or go to Wiki or catalog search on family search and just put New Jersey, Scotch Irish, and you probably will have a list of propagated collections. And then Ginevra, I'm sorry, can you repeat the second part of that question?
Oh, just if any of the resources that you mentioned today, the published resources, would any of those be good if you want to learn more about kind of the settlement and the migration to New Jersey?
Yeah, I would go back to, if I remember correctly, I'm going back on my slides, give me 1 minute. The story of New Jersey's civil boundaries, I think, has a little bit of that, and also the histories. Go New Jersey colonial to state. So go ahead and look at all those New Jersey histories I mentioned in the first part, because it'll talk about the Dutch and all the different immigrants that are coming in.
All right. Well, thank you again, Kim. I know that there were several questions that we didn't get to. Of course, if we didn't get to your question, you can always chat with our genealogists for free online Monday through Saturday, 9 to 5 Eastern Time, or you can also consider booking a consultation with one of our experts by contacting consultations@nehgs.org. So thank you again for joining us. As you leave the event, you'll have the opportunity to fill out a survey and give us your feedback. As we continue to expand our online offerings, any and all feedback is extremely helpful and appreciated. This free webinar was made possible by the generous support of members and friends around the world. Please consider making a gift to American ancestors to help keep these programs free and to create others. And if you'd like to access more how-to resources or learn about upcoming online educational programs, visit our online learning center at americanancestors.org. Thank you again, and I hope to see you at our online programs in the future. Goodbye for now.